Slot is breaking all sorts of records as Liverpool head coach tonight. He looks to lead the Reds to 4 wins in a row at Newcastle for the first time ever. Mo Salah was Manchester City's tormentor-in-chief on Sunday to keep Liverpool 9 points clear at the top of the table. Last season in Newcastle, it was Darwin at the double. Will the Uruguayan start tonight against Eddie Howe's Magpies? Well, Newcastle are winless in their last 15 meetings with Liverpool. Can they break that long winless stretch tonight? It is a 7:30 kickoff up in the northeast. A very good evening to you. Welcome along to Matchday Live. We'll get the thoughts of Gary Gillespie and Neil Mellor in just a moment. But first, let's get straight to St James's Park and get the team news from Mark Benstead.
Even Rob, after 2 fabulous results back-to-back at Anfield in the space of a week, it's a very different challenge for Liverpool now. They face 3 games away from home in the space of the next week. And, of course, they form part of 6 games on the road between now and the end of the year. And the first of them takes place here at the always raucous St James's Park. With the growing run of difficult matches to deal with and the pile-up of fixtures, the manager looks to shuffle his pack tonight. He makes 3 alterations to his side that line up against City on Sunday, and they include Jarell Quansah coming in for his first Premier League start since the first day of the season down at Ipswich. The team lineup in full then is as follows. It's Kevin Kelleher, Joe Gomez, Virgil van Dijk, Darwin Núñez is in from the off. 3 goals this season. He scored 2 off the bench here, as you've already mentioned, last season at St James's Park. It's Alexis McAllister, Mohamed Salah, Curtis Jones, who makes his 150th Liverpool appearance today, Cody Gakpo, who plays a 100th game for the Reds in all competitions, Andy Robertson, Ryan Gravenberch and Jarell Quansah. On the bench, Yaros, Endo, Diaz, Szoboszlai, Elliott, Nallo, Alexander-Arnold, Morton and Nayoni. St James's Park can be a difficult place to come to, but Liverpool have got a fabulous record against Newcastle. They haven't lost to the Magpies since 2015. In fact, you look at the results here in recent times, well, it is very impressive indeed. They have taken 16 of a possible 18 points available. They'll be looking to do something similar again here tonight. In terms of the team that they are facing, we'll get the team in full a little bit later in the show and run through it in detail. But the headline news for Newcastle tonight is that Alexander Isak is fit to start. He had been a doubt with a hip problem after he went off in the draw against Crystal Palace, but the Swede and the big goal threat starts tonight. Full details on the Newcastle side to come a little bit later in the show.
Mark, thank you very much indeed. Mark used the word there, Gary, challenges that Liverpool passed 2 with flying colours last week against Real Madrid and Manchester City at Anfield, but 2 tricky away games this week for different reasons. Newcastle and then Everton on Saturday lunchtime.
Well, I think every time Liverpool go into a new week, it seems to be a big week in games, doesn't it? I mean, everybody was making a big song and dance about it a month ago, about the 10 games that they were actually facing, and this would determine Liverpool where they are at this moment in the season. They came through that with flying colours, and I don't see any reason why they can't come through this sticky spell with flying colours as well. I think it's always more difficult going away from home to get results, as I think history would prove. And you go to St James's, the atmosphere is obviously going to be electric. But in saying that, Liverpool have done exceptionally well. I mean, the record against Newcastle is second to none. The most goals scored against any team in the Premier League, the most points gained from any team in the Premier League. So
nothing to worry about.
So absolutely nothing to worry about. No.
Good.
So I mean, and in fairness, they're going into this game with bags of confidence. But you know, no game against Newcastle at St James's is an easy one, as what was proven last season when 2 late goals from Darwin Núñez just about sealed it. I think it was in the 94th or 95th minute that we got the winner. So it's going to be tough.
I think the fans are a big factor at St James's Park. You know, the last home game they played against West Ham, and a few people that were there said it was a little bit flat. And the result maybe reflected in terms of the performance. It will be anything but flat tonight. Liverpool in town, absolutely flying, top of the table. Those Geordies will be really up for it, and they'll make it difficult, they'll make it uncomfortable. They're not playing that well themselves. They had a disappointing result at the weekend, mentioned that result against West Ham as well, so they'll be looking to try and get things going again. If you look at the league table, Newcastle won't like that, mid-table. They want to be back knocking on the door for those European places. And they've done all right at home against some of the big sides. And that's what I mean about the atmosphere. The fans will be really up for it against the top sides. And us coming there tonight to St James's Park will make it difficult, first 20 minutes, and we just need to quieten them down a bit.
The key thing, Neil, if you look at the league table as well, is it has Liverpool 9 points clear at the top. Only 2 teams in Premier League history have ever been 9 or more clear after 13 games. Both of them went on to win the title, Manchester United in 1994 and Chelsea 12 years after that. How stronger favourites would you make Liverpool at the moment, and how many other teams are capable of winning it still?
25 games to go. I think that's the big thing, isn't it? It's been an unbelievable start. The week we've had has been incredible. To beat the European champions Real Madrid comfortably, to beat Man City comfortably. They weren't even close. We beat both sides comfortably, and both scorelines actually flattered Real Madrid and City. What I would say is, with 25 games to go, a lot of things can change. Injuries. We're already seeing at the moment there's a few injuries knocking about in the squad. How many more are we going to get? There's 9 games in December, some tricky away games amongst them. We're in an unbelievable position, but a lot can change. And people are saying City are out of it. I don't think City are out of this title race. And the reason I say that is because if you look at our last 9 games at the back end of last season, we picked up 15 points. City won 9 out of 9. That's a 12-point gap.
Can this City win 9 out of 9?
There's a January transfer window where they're going to have to go into because of the Rodri situation. Now, they may drop more points. We will drop points at some point. We're not going to keep winning all the games. It's been amazing, but unless there's 12 games to go, with 25 still left, I still think there's a lot of games to go, but it's a brilliant position we're in.
Well, from what I saw at the weekend, Manchester City's side at this current stage of the season is not capable of doing what past Manchester City sides have been able to do. I don't see where that comes from. Now, you know, we're talking about the best manager in world football, probably in all time. He has got a monumental job on to get them back to where they want to be, and at this minute in time I don't think that's possible. But in saying that, there is still a lot of football still to be played, and there are other teams that will be involved in the challenge to the title, and I include Chelsea in that as well as Arsenal. I think Chelsea, they've been our toughest opponents at Anfield so far. In fact, I think they should have actually got a little bit more than what they did get deserved. So I think there's still a little bit to go. But in saying that, you know, in this day and age, stats are very, very focal, and if that's what the stats are saying, then we're in a fantastic position.
That is the thing, isn't it? That stats tell you that most teams or all teams that have been in this position before go on to win it, and that we are used to seeing the extraordinary and the almost impossible from particularly Manchester City in recent seasons. But 5 years ago, when we saw Liverpool race into this sort of advantage, they held on to it, and they were miles clear by the time the pandemic arrived, and actually miles clear at the end of the season as well.
Well, I'm a big believer, I don't know if you agree or not, Gary, but your best players have to stay fit. So you need that little bit of luck. And you're looking at players for Liverpool who are so influential, so important to maintaining this run and maintaining this gap between the other sides. Salah, Van Dijk, you know, the midfield 3 have been absolutely excellent, and even a bit of rotation in there. You lose Van Dijk, Salah, all of a sudden that becomes a problem for Liverpool. Now, I'm hoping that doesn't happen, so that's why you need that little bit of luck with injuries all season. If that happens, then absolutely fully confident we can go all the way this season. 25 games to go, long way to go.
What about the team then that Arne Slot has picked tonight, Gary? We saw Jarell Quansah come on as a right-back on Sunday against Manchester City. Would you expect him to start there tonight?
Well, I think that will be the big debate, won't it? Like, will he revert back to his normal position as a centre-back in Joe Gomez, who I thought performed exceptionally well against Manchester City? Interesting to I think that Jarell Quansah this time, this game last season made his debut for Liverpool against Newcastle. Came on as a substitute in the 77th minute or something like that. So he knows what the atmosphere is like up there. I think personally he will play as a centre back, and I think Joe Gomez will go to right back. But in saying that, he could easily be wrong. I think he acquitted himself pretty well when he came on, but I think you made the point, Neil, when we were talking, it was for only 20 minutes, and it's a different scenario playing a full game there as opposed to just maybe 20 minutes and coming on as a sub.
I think that's a good point. I think he'll take great confidence from making his debut at St James's Park. 1-0 down with 10 men, And he handled that, and it was an unbelievable away day, wasn't it? Early in the season, but he'll take great confidence. I've been here, I've won here, and he'll take confidence from that. And the manager believes in him. He brought him on in a big game at the weekend against City, up against Doku, tricky customer. I'm with Gary. I see him as a centre half to start the game, and Joe Gomez back at right back.
Did Sunday give us a reminder, if it was needed, of just how good Joe Gomez is at centre half? Because we've not seen him there in a Premier League game for a very long time.
Well, I mean, he's obviously been very unlucky with injuries, isn't he? Just at the wrong time or wrong stage of his career. It looked set that he was going to be like Virgil van Dijk's partner for like years and years to come. And it never quite worked out that way. Matip came in, played an awful lot of games alongside him. And Joe Gomez has been the kind of nearly man. Is his best position right full-back? Is the best position centre-back? But one thing you have to say, and we saw it last season in many ways as well, every time he played, the consistency was always there. I think the one thing that we could level like Joe Gomez in the past, maybe that little bit of lack of concentration, that little lapse in concentration was causing a couple of mistakes, and he got punished severely for them. That hasn't been the case from what I've seen so far, especially at the weekend against Manchester City. And as I say, I go back to last season, the performances we saw from him last season. I don't have any qualms about whether he plays right full-back or right centre-back. I think he's been absolutely outstanding.
Mr. Reliable. He's always there, isn't he, to be trusted. He looks like he doesn't kick off. You know, a lot of players want to start and he's on the bench a lot. He's had to be patient to start at centre-half. I was amazed at that. A year since he last started at centre-half, came in, City barely had a chance. That's how well he did alongside Van Dijk.
And trust me, it's not easy when you're on the sidelines and you're like expecting, you know, you want to play like week in, week out. And if you're not playing week in, week out, it does get frustrating. But to keep it at the level that he's kept, like fitness-wise and ability-wise and confidence-wise, I think speaks volumes about not just him, but about the coaching staff and the manager as well.
But it actually felt like a point we made a lot during the title-winning season of players who came in and did their bit. And often I felt like we were talking about forward players, that Divock Origi would be thrown in for a game and produce something, Minamino, Oxlade-Chamberlain, guys like that. But actually it is the same that applies to people like Joe Gomez and Conor Bradley and Costas Tsimikas this season, that they will need to do their bit over the course of the campaign. Yeah, absolutely right.
Yeah, and if we are to achieve, they're all going to be needed. You know, we're not just going in the Premier League. We're still in the League Cup. We've got the FA Cup. Great tie for Aki, that one, wasn't it? But also the Champions League as well. So there's a lot of games this season, and they're all going to be needed. And Gary mentioned the attitude, the professionalism from the players, so that they're ready when they come in. So Joe Gomez hasn't started this season in the Premier League. How good did he look? He was at it. He didn't look rusty. He didn't look like he was struggling a little bit. He was at it straight away, and that's the professionalism. Yeah. In the environment that's being created at the moment. They're all going to be needed. Harvey Elliott, another player. You know, all of a sudden he's back fit. Curtis Jones is there. Dominic Szoboszlai. There's competition for places, but they're all going to be required to contribute.
Winning helps to keep a happy squad. I mean, I watched the game. I don't know if you watched the game. I watched West Ham warm up, and I'm looking at West Ham and I'm thinking, there's not a happy bunch there. They're like look absolutely miserable. Even like, you know, the substitutes and even the starting 11. I'm thinking like the faces on them. It's like we're going into this game and I'm thinking, oh geez, oh. You look at Liverpool, there's smiles on everybody's faces, even the substitutes. And if you've got a happy squad, good camaraderie, you'll get by. I'll tell you, throughout the course of the season, that stands you in great stead.
Well, that game that Gary touched on last night, West Ham beaten at Leicester in Ruud van Nistelrooy's first game in charge. The other game on Tuesday evening saw Crystal Palace win at Ipswich in a big game down at the bottom. Tonight, talking of big games down at the bottom, Everton Wolves at Goodison. Can Manchester City end their 7-game winless run against Forest, who won against Ipswich at the weekend? Bottom club Southampton take on Chelsea. Arsenal against Ruben Amorim's Manchester United, and Aston Villa themselves without a win in 8 host Brentford tomorrow. 2 attractive looking games, Fulham Brighton and Bournemouth Tottenham. But the final game of those 7 matches without a win for Manchester City came at Anfield on Sunday. The champions demolished by the league leaders.
Liverpool and Manchester City have become huge rivals over the last few years. Van Dijk is there, and maybe the contact was too good. And the strike, and Liverpool are in. Salah for Liverpool, oh dear. And here's Alexander-Arnold. Near post is Van Dijk again. That's Alexander-Arnold. Supporters arriving! It's Cody Gakpo for Liverpool. Luis Diaz is taking down, and Liverpool get themselves a penalty. And Mohamed Salah scores for Liverpool.
Do you think that game, Neil, told us more about Liverpool or more about Manchester City and where the two clubs are at?
Both, yeah. In all the time that we've been watching this rivalry, and it has been over the recent years, it's probably the worst Man City performance I've seen at Anfield. The fans played the part, again, because we'd had the high of the Wednesday victory against Real Madrid, and you're thinking, can we go again? We're going to need the crowd again. And they were. The players responded really well. The only disappointing thing was that it wasn't more. 1-0, you're thinking, as bad as City have been, they might nick and equalise it. I never felt worried that they'd outplay us to win the game, but I thought they might just nick and equalise and thinking, not deserve that. But it was great to watch Liverpool in control of a game against a side that have dominated the Premier League and have been a rival for years, and they were nowhere near Liverpool's level. Liverpool were so good at the weekend that flattered City. It should have been more, shouldn't it?
Certainly should. I mean, Virgil van Dijk could easily have had a hat-trick. I think the chances they had were unbelievable. But no, I think it was an all-round great performance. And Arne Slot kind of like made reference to in his post-match interview about the way that they did everything well. They pressed well. They put pressure on Manchester City, won the ball high up in good areas of the pitch. But when City, especially second half, I think they kind of dominated possession. But we had that low block that got everybody behind the ball, and there was no pockets of space. There was everybody was in position, and Manchester City just couldn't play through us, and they didn't really have any answers to try and break us down. So I think all in all, a total performance from Liverpool was just a little bit too much for Manchester City on the day.
Did City's performance remind you of where Liverpool were 2 years ago, in the sense of a season that had perhaps just was one too far for a few players?
Maybe caught up with a few players?
Yeah,
possibly. I think maybe Liverpool found that out probably a little bit later on in the season. Manchester City obviously going through a sticky spell at this moment in time. Injuries have certainly it's taken its toll on them. I think players are actually playing a little bit through the pain barrier. Kyle Walker, who's been the fastest thing on two legs in the Premier League for X number of years, looks as if I could beat him. Oh, maybe not that.
A couple of knee operations.
But it does happen, and sometimes it catches up with you. And we're talking about it after the game or before the game, about just that desire, that hunger, to keep that hunger and desire to keep doing it and doing it and doing it and doing it. Guardiola, he made a good point at the end of the game. 6 times they've won the Premier League. That's a fantastic achievement in the time that he's been there. But to keep going to the well, to ask them more or less the same players to keep producing, it's sometimes a little bit difficult to happen.
What I thought was significant, though, Neil, was that 2 years ago, Liverpool, the big regeneration that came in the summer was the complete overhaul of midfield. 4 new midfielders signed by Jurgen Klopp to leave Liverpool in a great place. And from watching the game up high as we were on Sunday, that felt like a key area that City looks so slow in that area compared to the vitality of the likes of Gravenberch and Szoboszlai and Alexis McAllister.
Yeah, and even you look at our midfield, you look at Arsenal, you look at Chelsea, and you think City haven't got that same energy, the same legs, and a little bit like you were saying, Liverpool had to regenerate in that area. City are going to have to do the same. They've obviously got Rodri out. I think Kovacic would come in and improve things as well, but if they're relying on Gundogan and Lewis in there, I don't think that's going to be enough to close the 11-point gap at the moment. I really don't believe that. They'll always have the goal threat with Haaland because he can just produce that moment. Things aren't right at City. I'm looking at them naming the team. Ederson's on the bench. You're thinking, how's he on the bench? He's better than Ortega. De Bruyne is on the bench. Is he fit or not fit? But you want your best players out there, not just because of their reputation. They can produce that match-winning ability in big games. So it's good to see. It's good to see them struggling because they've dominated for so long. But we were ruthless in terms of we never let them get in the game. It wasn't a case of, I know we changed our tactics second half and we sat a little bit deeper and counter-attacks, but I never felt they were going to really open us up. Whereas City of old would have maybe took control of spells of the game.
But as we've discussed, very little time to rest on your laurels after a victory like that, because the games keep on coming thick and fast at this stage of the season. And Trent Alexander-Arnold, even though he doesn't start tonight, knows this time of year is all about one word: momentum.
And that's a ball for Nunez. He slams it home. That's Alexander-Arnold. Oh! It's a screamer.
When it comes this time of the season, games come thick and fast, but when you've got momentum, when you're in a good run of form like we are now, you're excited for them. I think a lot of the lads would agree with me when saying this, that this is the best time of the season, if anything, really. You know, all it is just pure football. Like, there's nothing else you have time to think about. It's just pure football. You play, you recover, you prepare, you play. It's just a continuous cycle of that. And you know, when you love what you're doing, when you love playing and being out there on the pitch, then no, you can't get enough of it. Every game's so important. I think it's probably the most important month of the season. I've always believed that. If you have a good December, because you play so many games, 8-9 games in the space of a month, if you can get through that with a lot of wins and not drop many points, then you're heading into the second half of the season in an incredible position. And you know, being in a strong position, what we are now, if we can keep that up, then I'm sure there'll be teams in and around us that'll drop points. When you're winning games, of course, you feel good and you feel on top of the world, but also you've got that confidence in the game plans that the manager and the coaching staff give us. We believe in them, we go out there and try and execute it the best that we can. And you know, with the previous games that we've had, we're full of confidence. We believe that we can beat any team, and we've proven that. And we're very, very hard to beat, clearly. So we go into games with confidence, and I think that's rightly so.
Newcastle on Wednesday, they've had a little bit of a mixed run recently, but we obviously know the threat that they pose on home soil at St James's Park.
Yeah, of course. I think it's always, you know, people always talk about previous games and form going into games, but I think in the Premier League that's something that doesn't really matter. Every game is incredibly difficult, and I think, you know, teams will always have that extra motivation when they're playing us. Sitting top of the league, looking like we're probably the best team in the league so far this season. So of course teams are going to have extra motivation. They know that they need to be at 100% to have a chance to beat us, and we understand that, so we need to be at our best. And they'll always have a point to prove. I think in these situations, teams, they're able to get a result against us, it can transform the season and it can kickstart the season, so that'll be motivation for teams. And for us, it's just about churning out results. It's just about getting wins, home, away. It doesn't really matter to us. Every game we target getting 3 points.
They've obviously got quite a fanatical home support. I just wondered, do you thrive in that environment? Do you like that sort of game where the fans are getting involved in it? Yeah.
I think, you know, it's a big game with a lot of history in it, and you know, their fans will be up for it. We came away from there with an incredible result last season, so I'm sure they'll be wanting some kind of that might add a bit of fuel to their fire. But for us, it's full focus. I think we don't get too, you know, thrown by opposition fans, but it'll be an incredible atmosphere, always is up there, and it's one that we're all looking forward to playing.
So Trent Alexander-Arnold starts on the bench. Let's talk about Neil, one of the defenders who does play this evening, as he always does. Virgil van Dijk. Jamie Carragher said he was the best defender of the Premier League era at the weekend. You've played against a few of them. What would you say?
I would say that watching Van Dijk at the weekend was one of the best performances I've seen him in a Liverpool shirt. And that's how good he was. Now, we've seen Virgil being... No? You're not with me on that one? I'm saying the one mistake...
Nearly gave a goal away.
The one mistake bar, I thought it was unbelievable. To stop the City threat...
Well, you can't make one mistake and have like your best game ever, can you?
For me, it was just unbelievable. And his levels have gone, since he's got the armband, to an incredible level. You know, we talk about his age, he's in his 30s, but he still looks immense, and he inspires players around him. You know, I think Konate's come on. I think he's matured as a player alongside Virgil van Dijk. Thought Gomez had a little bit of a buzz around him as well. Kwanzaa tonight, the same, you know, when he's played alongside him. So he's influential in that sense. You asked me about some of the top centre-halves in the Premier League, and he comes in that conversation. You think about some of the greats, you know, people will talk about the John Terrys, going further back to Tony Adams. Does he come in that conversation? Rio Ferdinand's, players like that. And Vidic, of this era, is right up there amongst the best, without a doubt.
Well, for me, he's the best I've seen in the Premier League, without any shadow of a doubt. I think he's got everything. Terry, yeah, I'll give you Terry. He was a good leader. Didn't have the pace of Van Dijk. I don't think had the aerial ability of Van Dijk. I didn't have the strength of Van Dijk, albeit he was a big fella. Ferdinand, possibly because he was playing for Manchester United. I don't think Vidic is anywhere near like the same class as Virgil van Dijk. Who else did you mention?
Tony Adams, Vincent Kompany.
Going further back.
Virgil's miles ahead of them. Yeah, the best centre-back I've seen.
Is he the best Liverpool centre-back ever?
Well, my mate's Big Al, and I did say before that I think Virgil was slightly better than Al, but like in hindsight I might have made a little bit of a mistake there. I think Big Al could do a little bit more on the ball than maybe what Virgil van Dijk could.
Close call.
Yeah, it's a close call, but I mean, listen, you have to have like that ability that he has is like it's a given talent, isn't it? But I think that you talk about contracts, you talk about Mohamed Salah's contract, you talk about like Trent Alexander-Arnold's contract. The one for me that you've got to sign is Virgil van Dijk, because he has that leadership quality that not a lot of teams have, and in that dressing room I think he's a vital cog. If Liverpool are to progress into the team that we want them to progress, I think he's the one player that you need to keep a hold of.
Well, he was sent off in this fixture last year, Neil, but it was one that Liverpool still managed to win. You spoke about Jarell Kwanzaa having happy memories of this ground. Well, so too will Darwin Núñez. And he was a real handful, wasn't he, when he came on Sunday?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the moments of the season, wasn't it? The victory at Newcastle. It was early on in the season. You're thinking, probably not going to get anything, 1-0 down. He comes on and he has that in him to be able to produce a moment of match-winning ability the way he did there. 2 late goals to win the game. I think what I would say about Darwin Núñez is he's not going to hit the numbers of Salah. He's not, but he works extremely hard for the team to maybe create space, to create a little bit of panic in the opposition, to maybe create that chance for someone like Salah, maybe a Gakpo as well. I think he's got a strong connection at Anfield. You know, I feel as though when he's at Anfield, there's a real connection, you know, the way he works hard. So I think he'll cause the Newcastle defenders problems, which then could free that little bit of space up for Salah.
It was really interesting earlier in the season, Gary, interviewing Arne Slot after the Arsenal game, and he was talking about Mo Salah, and he was saying Jurrien Timber, who'd been injured, so you don't realise how hard it is to play against someone world-class like Salah for 90 minutes, because you have to be on. He didn't make 90 minutes, but you have to be on it. I sort of wonder what it's like to play against someone like Núñez, who is very mercurial and can be unplayable one week and not the next, and whether that might be difficult to sort of stay switched on and not quite know what version of a player you're going to come up against.
Well, the one thing I would say about Darwin Núñez, like, he does what like no defender likes to have done to them, and that's running behind you. Now, he doesn't always get it right. The timing's not always right, but you saw from the goal that he scored there, when the timing is right and the finish is good, he's a threat. Would I like to play against Darwin Núñez week in, week out? Probably not, because he's a pest. He gets about you, doesn't he? And as I say, he has that little bit of pace that can trouble you. And I totally agree with Neil. I think he's not going to get the numbers that like we've seen that Salah has. But there's many different cogs to a wheel to make the wheel work. And like I think at this time, Liverpool's progression and like the way they are at this moment in time, I think he fits one of them cogs.
I'll be hoping to recreate what he did last year this evening. If you're watching us on social media, you are about to leave us, but for details of how to continue watching, liverpoolfc.com/watch is where you need to go to. And this is what's coming up over the rest of the course of the evening. Between now and 7:30 kick-off, we'll hear from both managers, Arne Slot and Eddie Howe as well. And Steve Hunter and Phil Thompson will be here from 7:30 for full audio commentary of the game, and then reaction from the North East and here in the studio from 9:30 tonight. You'll be able to get that same reaction in the podcast too. That'll be available in the wee small hours of the morning. Midnight, you can see the whole game in full on LFC TV, and then on Facebook and YouTube tomorrow inside with all the behind-the-scenes access from St James's Park. As I said, lots more to come between now and 7:30. We will head back to Mark Benstead, who'll be alongside David James for some reaction to the Newcastle team as Liverpool look to continue this fabulous run of form under Arne Slot. We are back with more in just a couple of minutes' time.